So Barack Obama is about to basically bail out hedge funds, big banks, another backdoor bailout, billions of dollars. I'll explain how. Hey everybody, what's going on? Yesterday, Barack Obama was interviewed with respect to the housing market. Now, for those of you that may be new to my channel, or those of you that have been with me for a while, you know that I've talked about a pump and dump that is underway. Now, what is a pump and dump? Well, for stocks, basically it's when there's a company that some analysts and maybe some companies begin to say, okay, hey, let's get in here, buy up this price of this stock, let's create all this fanfare and media hoopla so that we could pump this up. And then at the very end of the pump stage, all the other, average Joe on the street, the shoe shine boy, they're now getting stock tips of how great this company is. And then the big institutional buyers that got in at the beginning, they quietly exit and the stock collapses. Well, that's happening right now for the entire trillion-dollar housing market. I've documented this in my House of Cards micro documentary. I've done other videos about it. But here again, it is more proof of this. So you have to understand that the majority of underwater mortgages, the majority of them, have been sold to hedge funds and private equity firms. So all those underwater mortgages that all those mortgages that were done in 2006, 7, 8, that now are worth 50%, where the properties now are worth 50% less than the mortgage amount, or 40% less than the mortgage amount, they've been sold in the in the private market, basically to other funds that raised money to buy these. So when Obama says that basically all the homeowners still in these properties should be able to refinance no matter what, who does that help? Well, yes, it does help the homeowner, even though if you look at his HAMP modification program, the defaults that took place were really, really high. People that, had their loan modified within a few months had already defaulted again. Now, of course, that didn't happen with everybody, but it happened with the majority. Why is it? Because the central planners think that they could plan a market. Well, now he's basically doing the same thing, but the real truthful reason that he's doing this is not to help homeowners. It's to bail out and basically give all this billions of dollars in new refinance proceeds to these institutions. So what happens is that you have underwater mortgages that would be refinanced through the government, where now you, the taxpayer, are responsible for that, but the proceeds go to the hedge funds that bought these mortgages for pennies on the dollar. So a perfect example is this. Let's say it's a $100,000 mortgage, and that mortgage was purchased for $20,000, right? Let's say the property's worth, $80,000. Well, the new homeowner now gets a new loan for $60,000, and the bank, or not even the bank, the private equity firm or the hedge fund that owns that mortgage, they're going to make the difference between the 20 and the 60. They'll make $40,000. Now multiply that by millions of properties in foreclosure across the country, and you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in new proceeds to the very institutions, many of which helped get this man elected. It doesn't just end there, because one of the things that I've talked about with respect to the pump and dump is that it gets to a point, and you're still at this level, where hedge funds and big institutionals are buying real estate in droves. Perfect example is in the Tampa Bay Times just last week, there was an article where the first half of 2004, there was approximately 2,900 all-cash transactions, meaning the buyer paid all cash for a single-family home, a townhome, or a condo. 2,900 in the first half of 2004. In the first half of 2008, just right before the hardcore collapse, you had that number rise to 3,600 all-cash transactions. Well, what was that number at the first half of 2013? Close to 11,000 all-cash transactions, meaning that over 60% of every transaction in the Tampa Bay market was all cash. Now, it's not just, Tampa Bay is not alone in this. Every metro market across the country, the 50 to 70% of all purchases, as I've told you in the past, are cash transactions, many times fueled by big money investors, or big money investors that are financing smaller institutional or private equity investors in those local marketplaces. It's a classic pump and dump. They're pumping up the market with the collusion of the Federal Reserve keeping rates at record lows. In fact, In Obama's interview, at the very end of it, he talked about how great it is that interest rates remain record low because it's only going to help the housing market. Now here's another point. This is from the Wall Street Journal. It was an article that came out in just February of this year. Obama, let's streamline the process of lending. Basically, the next step on this, and what I want you to be looking out for, is how the banks will begin to change their lending guidelines. Meaning if you had a short sale, a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, if your credit score is below 500, 400, if you could fog up a mirror, if you have a pulse, if you have a heartbeat, you can basically get a mortgage. What will that do? That will fuel this huge boom in real estate prices, which will allow all of this private equity, all these hedge funds, all these billionaires that I've documented at length on this channel, basically sell these properties that they've bought for pennies on the dollar, sell them at record levels. Now, it is the biggest form of manipulation, but then again, gold, silver, stocks, every market's manipulated. Educated investors can make a killing during this time, but you have to know the truth and you need to know what's going on. This is the truth you're not going to get on any financial news network. I'm Fabian for Liberty. Thanks for watching. I'm out.